All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. We're going to call the meeting of our Del Mar College Board of Regents to order at 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday, July 29th. We are meeting in a special workshop session to discuss our budget and one other item. But we also do have a closed session item. So for the purpose of process, we're going to go through our opening pieces, and then the board will go straight into closed session, and we'll do that while we enjoy a salad lunch. Thank you very much to the college for providing that for us. So I'm going to establish a quorum. Mr. Loeb, are you here?
I'm here.
Mr. Garcia. Ms. Averett. Here. Dr. Turner.
Here.
Mr. Cruel. Oh, Dr. Adami ran right over you.
I'm here.
And Carol Scott. We have a quorum and can conduct business. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Dr. Adami, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And please join us as we read our Del Mar College vision statement. Del Mar College empowers our communities to achieve their dreams. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from this Board of Regents meeting in real time, with exception of the portions of the meeting considered as closed session. We do have an opportunity for individuals to address the board in general public comment at the beginning of our board meetings. Is there anyone here for general public comment?
Seeing none.
Seeing none. As I said, we're going to go straight into closed session, and the board will be meeting in closed session under Texas Government Code 551.071, consultation with legal counsel, and 551.074 regarding personnel matters, including evaluation of the college president, the president's contract, as well as the board's self-evaluation. The time is 11:32. We'll grab lunch and meet in the closed session room. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come back from our closed session at 1:02 p.m. There is no action coming out of closed session. So we will move on to our staff report for today, which is discussion and try to get a little bit more in depth into the proposed maintenance and operating budget as well as the debt service budget. So I don't know if you have any introductory comments, Dr. Escamilla?
I do, and we, team and I have been working to prepare a glimpse, a preliminary budget, emphasis on preliminary, right? I want to talk a little bit about the purpose of this meeting for everybody listening, not only maybe some newer staff members in here, certainly, but for the general public who's listening. The purpose of this meeting is to come in a preliminary fashion, as is stated on the slide, to come in and examine the basic revenues up to this point that are not fully developed, though we think are mostly accurate, and to provide us some wiggle room, both on the revenues and expenditure side, to discuss openly and to hear initial responses, reactions, and so forth from our Board of Regents. So it's a very purposeful, not so solid scenario, and that's good. We want to have open and candid feedback. We'll be taking ample notes. We've had several meetings leading up to this. This meeting has over the years proven extremely valuable going into the latter part of the budgetary process that'll come in the latter part of August. And as such, we'll provide information to the best of our knowledge. We have new initiatives going on. Freedom to Dream is a big one that we're going to talk about. We're not going to take the full in-depth a look at the whole operation. We're hoping to do that over the next couple of months in August and in September. But that being said, the impact of HB 8 overall is profound on our operations. And as such, We have been extremely busy. The last thing I will say is that I have never seen, and I'm going to say never, never say never, I'm saying never. I have never seen this college come together as I have seen the faculty and staff come and work together departmentally, individually, interpersonally, and so forth on student initiatives like I have recently. There's something different that's bubbling, and the fact that it's happening all based on students and advancing the educational attainment of this community is a wonderful, wonderful thing, because that's what we're all here for. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Mr. Garcia, take us through your presentation for today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. President, and members of the Board of Regents. Today's budget workshop provides a near final 2025 and 2026 financial plan and brings us one step closer to the board's approval process planned for the month of August. At this time, we respectfully request the board's feedback on the financial information presented today as we move forward towards finalizing the preliminary FY 2025-2026 budget plan. What seems to be our new normal, the college once again experienced a heightened level of uncertainty during this year's planning process due to shifts in our operating environment. Key contributing factors include strategic operational transformation driven by the F2D initiative, revisions of the state's performance funding model, proposed bills during the 89 Texas legislation sessions that pertain to higher ed. With the conclusion of the 89th legislative session in June, no legislation was passed that affects today's FY 2025-2026 financial plan. Although a special session is planned, we do not expect any outcomes that will change the current budget estimates. During our workshop, the team will take a deeper dive on the budgetary implications of both the F2D initiatives and changes to the state performance funding model. To begin, Ms. Landrum will present the budget calendar, followed by a comprehensive review of the preliminary budget details.
One last thing, you can see the team that's going to be presenting up here. And so hats off and thanks to the business office team for getting us to this point and working with the departments. So thanks to everybody across the college, starting with the business team and their efforts to lead this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board of Regents, Dr. Escamilla. So now we're going to discuss what we have left in our budget calendar for fiscal year 2026. We are going to get those preliminary budgets sent out to our department and our budget managers by the 31st. August 12th, we'll come back with another budget update. We'll also have our orders to conduct a public hearing and seek the board's approval to move forward with our public hearing. August 26th, we will conduct our public hearing, and that's where we will seek the board's approval on our proposed budget and property tax rates. September 1st is our deadline to approve our budget, and September 30th is our deadline to approve our tax rate. So since our last meeting, we have become aware of some changes that have reflected our revenue challenges and assumptions for our fiscal year 2026 budget. And as we go through this presentation, we're going to go in further detail and discuss those changes, so that way you're aware of what's changed since our last meeting. So for our state appropriations, the state is proposing some changes in the methodology that is used for our performance funding. So we have updated our estimate to reflect that new methodology changes. The coordinating board has provided us with near final runs, but they don't expect to have the final runs until probably mid-August. For our fast appropriations, we are still holding that increasing to the amount that we received for fiscal year 2024. And then for tuition and fees, we're not increasing our in-district tuition rate in order to comply with the governor's recent request. And we have evaluated our enrollment levels by conducting an extensive analysis and have updated our tuition and fees accordingly. For property tax revenue, We did receive our certified values. I did receive information about an hour before this meeting. I did not have enough time to be able to provide some solid rates, but we are very close to that. So we have our best estimate based off the information that we had at that time in this presentation. So after receiving our certified values, the net valuation growth it's a 0%. It's really like a negative 0.1514 around in there. And our new construction ended up being $593 million. And we'll go into further detail on the property taxes as we move forward. So do we have any questions at this point? No? Okay. So Dr. Halcomb will now discuss the proposed changes to our performance funding methodology.
Thank you, Jackie.
Performance funding methodology is in the process of changing under House Bill 8. There are 3 areas of change that I'll briefly discuss. First, only one student may receive a fundable outcome for only 1 credential per category per year within, whether it's bachelor's, associate, certificate level 1, level 2, ATC, OSA, or the institutional credential leading to licensure or ICLCs. In other words, we cannot award 2 certificate level 1s to the same student. For example, we have 2 certificate level 1s in welding. We would only be able to give that student 1 if they did earn the 2. And we have 2 certificate 2s, such as in EMT and fire science. And also we have, such as nursing, they have a nursing education AA degree, and then also the AAS degree. So we could only fund for 1 of those.
Let me just clarify. The student can earn as many as they earn. We only get credit through the
We
state.
only get funding for a certain number. Right. We can still award them, but we will not get funding for all of them. We still are stacking credentials, but you just can't have 2 of the certificate 1s, 2s, et cetera. Yeah. Okay, good question. Thank you. The good news, though, however, in the methodology changes is that when we transfer students, we can now be funded if they go to a private university or college, and that was not part of the funding model before. So that's good news. Now, the last one, not such good news, but there's a new credential of value test for associate degrees. The ROI on associate degrees is based on 5 years and the student making $30,000 a year by year 5. The new credential of value test does not apply to healthcare or education, by the way. So let's look at the 6 program areas that are predicted to be non-fundable. And the SIP is the classification of instructional programs and common numbering system that's used throughout the country for educational or instructional programs. And so you can see here where we have agriculture, natural resources, arts, biology, life science, communications and journalism, consumer, culinary and wellness, and psychology are the broad SIP categories. Now, in the 2023-2024 academic year, students at Del Mar College earned 135 awards within these categories. The specific programs in those SIP codes would be like journalism, radio, TV, digital media, advertising, public relations, sound recording technology, baking, pastry specialization, culinary arts, biology, kinesiology, drama, studio art, and instrumental music as well. The highest number of awards in that year were in biology, psychology, and studio art. Biology during that academic year awarded 25 students those awards. Psychology, 25, studio art, 24. So those are big areas, and we have a lot of majors in those areas. Now, based on, yes.
Since when are biology and psychology not medical?
Hey, I agree with you 100%.
So, yeah,
Yes.
let me jump in there, Dr. John Doe. To your point, Regent Loeb, this makes me crazy watching this. And being on the sounding board with the commissioner and so forth, these are things that are being, coming from different levels at the state, even outside the coordinating board, okay? I'll just say it. And as such, it is going to impact us across the state. It's not just us, right? It doesn't, the only thing that the only sense that it makes is, or where it's coming from is HB8 has, and this is a quote, overheated the financial situation, and although the community colleges did receive upwards of just under $100 million this legislative session, in addition to the big jump on HB8, these are attempts to mitigate overheating, if you will, of the system. I thought we were supposed to overheat the system and get people educated and so forth. I disagree with these kinds of things. I've only got one vote, and even then, it's not even an official vote. I do have a voice, and I'm going to keep using it. We are going to have to come together as a college, even more so than ever before, and handle this student by student by student. And the only way we can do that is together as 1,300 and something employees at the college. Okay?
I have
A question.
I'm great with that. I have a different perspective. The legislature was asked by all 50 community colleges to fund the increase obligation of us being successful off of them passing a bill where they wanted us to be performance-based pay. We have collectively responded, and more people are graduating and for less money than the alternatives. And this is an attempt by a group of people who are not in the legislature and who are not elected to undermine the legislature's directive because they said pay these people for this stuff. I mean, and there was a bill filed to do this, and my understanding is it didn't pass. And so, I mean, on top of, you know, biomedicine, biology, and psychology, the third one is visual and performing arts. They just passed a $1 billion bill to encourage filmmaking, where in the bill it gives filmmakers tax incentives to work with community colleges to do film production in the state. And now they're not going to pay for the primary major that supports that. I mean, they're not talking to themselves, and they're not listening to their legislature. And I think we got to reach out to the legislature and say, this isn't. I mean, if they had explicitly said this is what we want to do, okay, but they didn't. And I understand the need to preserve the connection there, but this is not. I mean, I don't know what elected official came up with this public policy.
I can't answer that one either, but I will say that there's more coming. And after this review and the cinching up of these loose ends, so to speak, of HB8, there's more coming. There's going to be a review of our continuing education list. All those ICLCs and everything that we put together last year is coming as well.
Let me ask the question differently, and if you don't mind, Mr. Loeb. The new credential of value test, was that in the legislation, in the cleanup legislation, or is this an interpretation by the coordinating board?
These are rules making and by the coordinating board as a result of the tones, the sentiment of the legislative session.
So
It's not
the
written per se.
legislature had an opportunity in the cleanup bill to define credentials of value differently and chose not to do it. And on the other hand, the coordinating board is changing the definition of credentials of value. I want to clarify and and underscore what
and I think
Mr.
my
Loeb is
point
saying.
was my understanding of the legislature is they will pay more. They set up a system where if it is a high earning degree, they pay us more.
So
And I understand that these may not be high-paying degrees, but I don't think they've never said we won't pay for one degree because we don't think it's worth as much money.
Go back one
So-
second. So it's meeting the, yeah, so it's the threshold of $30,000. Do we have that figure in this?
Yes,
But
30,000.
where is it in the slide? Is it
One more.
One more back. So it's not me, there it is right there. Is it, yeah, yeah, 30,000 K. So the first bullet on the second set, it's a 5-year ROI of 30,000 K annually earnings by year 5. I mean, so there it is right there, and that's the formula that was that was brought in, and based on the data that comes from, I guess, TWC and other employment agencies and so forth across the state, they've determined that these degrees are not reaching that threshold after 5 years.
Well, I mean, I agree. On healthcare,
kinda sharing with everybody else.
psychologists don't get to practice until they've got a master's degree and they've done clinicals. And same with doctors. So yeah, they get paid terrible when they're in residency and they're doing their internship type stuff. But so, I mean, but if they exempted medical and then they're not paying us for, our 2 biggest programs that aren't getting paid are medical, like, they're not even consistent with their own rules.
So there's another set of data and circumstances called high demand. And so we are taking ground on that and in other areas where they do pay, they will be paying us where they haven't been before based on the weighted effect of the ROI on those. So yes, this is seemingly a step backwards in my opinion. The only good news with this for right now is that these courses, these program areas, they call them 6, but they're 16. And that's kind of a misnomer there.
Right.
That kind of snuck up on me when I was driving home from Austin trying to determine this. But the only good news is that they'll be evaluated annually. I don't know how that really helps, but that's kind of a consolation that was put out there to me and for me to keep everybody honest. I don't know, to evaluate this process. That's the best I have at this point.
Okay. So we missed the point in rulemaking where we could make a public comment about this. Is that?
So, yes.
Have we missed where we can appeal it?
No, I think there's still ample opportunity, as you and I have discussed. I think another time, maybe another couple of regions that I will be continuing to go back and protest. I protested as much as I could so far. I'm not done yet. Sorry.
We have a couple more questions. Hang on.
Okay.
You finished, Mr. Loeb?
Yeah, I protest.
Thank you, Dr.
Libby? So my question is since the 16 areas have already been identified, so those students who are in those programs, you're meeting with them to push them into a program that is funded, is that correct? How do you do that with your arts and dramas, and what programs can you funnel them into?
I'm going to speak generally, and then we can ask the team to address this specifically, because this has already begun. But the idea is pushing them is one thing, giving them the option is another. So we're going to have to balance that with the students' desire to move into a different area or a different outcome than they were expecting. For those students who need guidance, and you offer them opportunities to say, look, these program areas in teaching will offer you maybe a bigger return on your dollar versus this. I think at that point you give them choices. And but at the same time, we are going to have a concerted effort to give them those options and have intensive advising so that they can see what they're really dealing with here. Patricia, would you join Dr. Halcomb in that conversation? You can do it from your chair.
Just
jump in and talk about. We're talking about that because we're building this plan. This is less than 10 days old, by the way. Maybe it's 14 days, but this information. So we're building this as we speak. Go ahead, Patricia.
Well, Jonda and I have been going on the CoBoard website and looking at other SIP code programs of study that have a fundable SIP code, I should say. But that's yet a preliminary conversation between her and I, as maybe there's some other options within that same area, right? Because, if someone says they want to be an art major, we still have to work with all the options. And so Dr. Halcomb and I are strategizing, and, I'm sure she'll be working with her faculty leads.
Dr. Jenna, please chime in.
Yeah, we're evaluating how to minimize the potential loss, of course, to our budget, but also help students to achieve their career goals. So it is a balancing act because we do need to get the funding for resources to support those students in their career goals. But we do have academic deans, department chairs, faculty looking at some of these options right now. We've already started those conversations. For example, it might be that we meet with a pre-med student and say, what about the chemistry degree that meets all the prerequisites for pre-med? Or are you really majoring in this subject and you're really wanting to be a teacher? Perhaps this is a better fit for you.
So what we haven't mentioned yet, Dr. Jenna, and I need to make this emphasis, is that we will receive funding if those students transfer.
Yes.
Okay,
But not
gotcha.
for graduation and transfer like what was the original deal. Okay, that's kind of a drawback. But if these students are hardcore, going to dedicated and know what they're going to do, and they're going to go be a psychologist, they're going to go be a PhD, a doctorate of psychology, then we're going to be there for them. But that's why transfer and these co-enrollment programs and these things that I've been pushing for years and years and years with these universities, especially our locals, are more important than ever. And so we knew these things were possibilities, and we're going to continue to push those. But that's important. That's an important piece. We will get funded for a transfer.
Yes, absolutely.
You just have to wait longer.
Regent Averett?
Dr. Escamilla, first, thank you for trying to explain this to us, and I just want to be clear that you're answering our questions and speaking to it. Obviously, you're not condoning it or supporting it. You are just trying to give us some context. Thank you very much, and I know that about you. Two quick questions. One is, you mentioned that the number is actually 16. Is that 16
Degrees.
degrees that we have here?
Yes,
So
degrees in certain one certification.
So it's 16 degrees in these 6
Right,
areas?
these are 6 SIP code
Gotcha.
areas. Within those areas, there are many programs that we do have.
And just to be clear, you are not saying that the 16 degrees in these 6 programs, Del Mar will no longer offer?
Not at all.
We're not saying that?
Not at all.
Okay.
No. We for those students that are, so example, as again, at the psychology as the prime example, if a student wants to be a psychologist, they're going to have to transfer.
Right.
Yes, right? And at least
have
get
to
the-
anyway.
Yes,
Yes.
and get to that master's level ideally at least, but certainly get them to that baccalaureate degree. We have got to find, in those 16 areas, we have got to find a transfer option for them, and we are going to have to double down on our efforts to transfer them to a university somewhere on this planet.
Yeah, we've been looking at transfer quite a bit, and it just happened that Dr. Sambi and I have worked with the Success Center on our Pathways projects to beef up transfer, and that just happened before we even knew that there was a new metric for credentials of value. So we've formed a transfer group as well, and we're focusing heavily on transfer to get our transfer rates up, because it is rather low for our FTIC students. So that is a big one for these areas.
But my last question, Dr. Escamilla, is, and I don't know to what extent you've had the opportunity to look into, really study the methodology that was used to identify these 6 areas, because some of us up here have some knowledge of these areas in particular, and know that at least locally, if you're talking about 30,000 over 5 years, some of these areas far surpass that. So are you comfortable with how these 6 areas were selected?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So they were selected based on this 5-year ROI
Yes.
and minimum 30,000 by year 5.
Yes.
So is there a appeals process that we can challenge
Yes.
the designation of that test to these 16 areas?
On an annual basis, these will be reevaluated. So yes, and it will be continuous. and it'll be up to us to provide refined data to our commissioner at the coordinating board, and do so in a collective. I don't know the mechanism per se to do this, but it will be incumbent upon the community colleges to come together and bring the data back to prove or disprove that methodology.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate our efforts to keep an eye on that, because I have not dug into the methodology. Knowing what I do know after more than 30 years of journalism in the state of Texas is that annual salary is not correct after 5 years, and I believe that there are politics in play as opposed to really letting the data tell the story. And so I hope that we will do everything we can to hold them to what they're saying, that it is indeed data-driven and not politically driven.
Yeah, because a lot of these degrees fall into numerous different types of jobs. You cannot tell me that they only have, a degree in art only covers these 6 items. You can't tell me that. Or a degree in communications doesn't follow into HR, follows into, so it's hard to put it in a box and say, this is concrete. That is not.
You're absolutely right. And their way is to just dispel this and direct students. So someone who's coming in from a fine arts perspective, of which is a core function of our curriculum, is an opportunity to at least explain to the students that if you're going to do arts, are you going into teaching? Because teaching will immediately, well, I'm not speaking about a specific one. I'm speaking across, but the way to get them out of this formula is to perhaps give them an option to go into teaching. Whether it's psychology, agriculture, or whatever, a teaching option will get them into a degree that refutes that. Now, again, we're going to evaluate this on a year-to-year basis. We have to get into those data to prove and disprove this. But believe me, we're putting the plan together, and we're going to take a deeper dive in the August meeting.
So, Dr. Halcomb, I appreciate you letting us hijack this portion of the presentation, because you are attempting to tell us how this decision is impacting the budget and explain it to us. And I knew this was going to be an area where we were going to have a lot of questions. So before we move on, what I want to suggest to Dr. Escamilla is that he has a board that is very supportive of him continuing to push back against what we see as incorrect assumptions about the value of an associate's degree, any associate's degree from a community college across the state of Texas. So the board fully supports you and the work that you're doing at the TAC level, as well as the advisory committees you're on at the coordinating board.
Yes,
so with our full support, continue to push back against that assumption.
I will push gladly.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
One more slide, and since we're talking about budget, let's look at potential loss. For 2024-25, we did have 45 students that did earn 2 certificate 1s, and we thought we were going to receive $157,500 in funding, but now with this new methodology, we would be paid for only 1. So that's where you get the $78,750. That's where you get potential funding loss. And you can see the certificate 2 or person with multiple associate degrees, where they can only do 1 now, but also the associate degree exclusions that we've just talked about would have a funding impact as well, potential loss. And then 23-24, that's what I really referred to earlier with the 135 degrees that I listed earlier. And you can see that potential loss would be about $815,500. And we're going to leave that to Mr. Garcia to explain further how we would adapt the funding loss. And I thank you, Madam Chair and Board, for your comments. If there are no other questions, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Garcia.
One more point, Regents. Oh, Mr. Curl has it.
Mr. Curl.
All right, so can they earn like a certificate 1 year and get reimbursed, we get reimbursed for it, and then earn another certificate the next year and get reimbursed?
I believe it is one per year, yes.
So,
Yes.
so,
They could earn a certificate 1 to OSA associate, we can stack those. They just can't get 2 of the cert ones. They could do it 1 year apart.
yeah, that's what
1
I'm
year
saying.
apart.
So,
Yeah.
so you could work with the students to say, okay, you concentrate on getting this certificate this year and get the next certificate next year, and we would get funding for both certificates.
Perhaps if it worked out for the student, but
Yeah.
it depends on the individual student.
Well, I mean, this
Yeah.
is, it all,
Yeah, but
I
that's
mean,
the
there has to be a
theory.
balance between us trying to maximize our reimbursements and doing what the student is best for the student.
Absolutely. We always want to do what's best for the student, and that's my goal, always, to do what's
Yes.
best for them.
Well, from a compliance standpoint, we did a self-audit on these mechanisms, and we are in very good stead as it relates to these certificates and the number of degrees and so forth that we're offering our students. There was a couple of outliers out there, a couple other colleges that were doing some things where it just didn't come off right. And I even agreed with not awarding a student multiple degrees in 1 year at the same time because of happenstance in a computer system, okay?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. We are in good shape, thanks to the team. Again, it's going to be a news story with CE. I'm going to keep adding those commercials as we go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
Well, it looks to me like, half of the potential funding losses is associated with the associate degree exclusions, not necessarily the certificates.
And it's potential, and then that's why we're going to engage every one of our students and do everything we can to open their eyes. A lot of these students don't know. A lot of these students, those that are absolutely directed and going to be journalists and artists and psychologists and those kinds of things, we're going to support them. We're not going to. It's a new balance. It's a new difficult balancing act to balance their dreams that we're so about here at Del Mar College with some other realities. But we're going to do what's best for the student, as Dr. Halcomb said.
Now, if these same students, though, are starting out at the high school level and doing the dual credit, you'll get some of that money after they
Absolutely.
accomplish their, 15 credits, right? 15,
ma'am.
18 credits.
Yes, ma'am.
So at least you'll get partial payment if we can get them started in dual credit, because in reality, they're only finishing up their arts classes when they come into Del Mar, and then they'll move on quicker. So that's something, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how else.
That's accurate. That is accurate.
Thank you, Dr. Halcomb.
Before we leave that slide, I do have a question about the 24 fiscal year, the 23-24. Is that money that in the settle-up process we will lose, or because the credentials just changed, it shows us a comparison? I want to understand what that 815 is.
Yes, so that's a good segue into the next slide. But I will say this, the 815 is on this slide is just for comparison to the 24-25 year. What's being settled up today is the fiscal year 24-25. And so what you see here is a net adjustment as reported by the coordinating board to us as of today for $497,447. Now, there's still a final closeout process that needs to happen, but this is what it's trending today, and it's my understanding that this is already taken into consideration the legislative changes that Dr. Halcomb just spoke about. But at the same token, I want to emphasize the fact that despite all these changes that had downward pressures to our revenue, in reality, at the end of the day, so far, we are up $497,447 for the 2025 year so far. Again, we still have the closeout process to happen, but I think that's a good indicator of the direction of our performance at the end of the day. Looking at the 26 adjustment, it's very unfortunate that the introduction of these legislative changes. They are now reflecting those changes in our 2025-26 funding year, and that's being reduced to the tune of $619,993. The net amount of $19.2 million is what the coordinating board has told us in recent days of what our estimated funding is going to be for the 25-26 year. Are there any questions on this slide?
Mr. Kroll, can you use your microphone, please?
So in essence, you're only losing about $128,000 from year to year.
On a year-over-year basis,
Yeah.
so far, yes. So again, we still have the closeout process. It's one more step in the 24-25 year. I like to believe that these numbers are already reflective of the bulk of the changes, but
That's
being
right,
conservative.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think the worst of it is behind us at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay, so the Freedom to Dream plan. Okay. So the financial plan for the Freedom to Dream initiative has been revised to reflect the enrollment profile of students who have been accepted into the plan and currently registered for the fall of 2025. Since student enrollments are trending better than expected, the plan has been updated, and it's based on a new estimate, or what is trending or looking to be 1,000 students in the next coming weeks. Dr. Benavides Dominguez will, in short order, provide a student enrollment update. The pilot program success remains contingent on the students' compliance with the program requirements, as well as the college's operational advancements. This include enhanced student advising, I think we heard a lot about that a few minutes ago, and support services, and a transition from a manual tracking to a digital platform for monitoring and reporting stackable credentials, particularly for students enrolled in an associate's in applied science degree. With that said, the F2D initiative remains financially viable with a projected surplus by the conclusion of the 3-year contract term of $614,318. As outlined in the plan, funding for the pilot program will partially be funded from HB8 state performance funding and financial support from the Del Mar College Foundation. Based on the projected student enrollment, the combined funding is estimated at $7.3 million. Right, it's right there in the total column in the middle table section of the table. Program costs over the same period are projected to be $6.7 million, resulting in a surplus north of $600,000. The first year's cost of the waiver is valued at $3.1. That's that value at the bottom, first column under the 25-26 year. Will be funded in part by state performance funding, with the funding recapturing occurring in the 28-29 year. That would be that $5.1 million you see at the top for the 28-29 year. And tuition and fee revenue relating to new enrollment growth. I will circle back on this last point on the next slide. Are there any questions so far?
I've got a question. What percentage of the students are you assuming graduate with an associate's degree by the end of 29?
What was the last part of your question?
So what percentage, what's our completion percentage of students?
So this is one of our theoretical constructs coming into this plan that is an area of strength that we're trying to improve upon, an area of opportunity that we're trying to improve upon. What we've theorized coming into this was bringing more full-time students in to the college and bringing in in a full-time basis that students complete at a higher rate. And we have numbers and we have data that says that students coming in with full-time with full-time equivalency in terms of load will graduate. Of course, that's a requirement of this program and so forth. To get to the answer to the question, we have numbers ranging up to data showing in a theoretical fashion that 70% of our students will finish at a faster, of those who stay engaged on a full-time basis, right, for 2 years and or up to 3 years, will finish at that rate.
Okay, so
That's our theory, and we're going to have to, we got biofeedback wires plugged into this, and we're going to yet to be determined.
I'm just trying, yeah, so that's what you're saying is that on the 3.99 million, that is assuming 70% completion rate
I think it'll be hard.
over that period of time of the 1,000 students who are doing associate's degrees?
Not entirely. It's going to be those who, let me see. I mean, that's the theory, that's the basis for, when we launch this thing, when we launch this project, and
I know we don't know what that number is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be
I mean, we hope it's higher, we hope it's 100%,
They have
but I
one more
mean,
week.
I think, no, we have several more weeks to.
I thought they only had till the first.
Oh, sorry, yes, the
sign, right?
August
'Cause
the August
so
1st deadline,
basically, Yeah, they
yes.
have like one more week, and then you have your Super Saturday.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah, so we currently have about 792 students.
No, it's
enrolled.
900.
Oh, no,
It's 900.
Okay, well,
That was this morning's
we're
report.
going to get there next week, in the next couple of days, very easily, so.
It's going to be, these are the types of problems that we were hoping for and so forth, but it's going to be upwards of, I'm going to guess, 1,300.
Yeah.
no, so I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of what our completion rates were built into this model, so
So that would be
we can understand whether this is
We
sustainable.
Yeah, our target was using student data that we had, that we were, and student behavioral data of comparable institutions around the country. We're using 70%, which is a very, very rich number for us. Okay, this is an area of huge opportunity, frankly, that we have to gain upon. That's just the baseline number we're going to hit, one side or the other. We just don't know.
Okay, yeah, got it. GIA transfer with 15 semester credit hours. That is the transfer for people coming in from dual credit or people going out to a university?
Either.
Going out to a four-year institution, and it could be at any point in time. That's part of that 30% retention rate, that 70%, the other 30% that either stops their education program or decides sooner than completing a degree to transfer to four-year institution. So going back to earlier strategies on the 16 majors, part of that discussion would be, hey, partnering up with a four-year institution to see how.
So you're going to have students that formally transfer after, and they're going to have them that actually transfer. They're called, in our statistical profile, it's not a negative term, it's just a term called leavers. They leave somewhere after when a university determines their eligibility to bring enough hours with enough GPA and so forth, which can be as few as 15 hours. It could be less. But those are two different groups. Okay. But in either case, we do get funding once they achieve a reverse transfer and or transfer formally after the associate degree.
Okay, so this model does not, since everything's kind of zero for this year, we are not getting paid, we are not including the transfer money we get when they transfer out of dual credit into us and they start as a freshman.
So let me expand on that. We will have completers in year one, but there is a 12-month lag before, by the time I report the numbers to the coordinating board, they vet it out, then in 12 months we get our payment. So that's what you see here is a 12-month lag.
Okay, so the incoming freshmen who have 15 hours, we're getting paid for those in 27, 28? 47,775 would be for the 15-hour transfers.
We do know that we will have completers for the certificate program in year one
Okay.
because we're giving them credit for the dual credit hours that they've earned at the high school level. So that accelerates their completion, right?
Okay.
Same thing for the associate's degree. There's individuals that come in with a large number of dual credit hours already.
All right, so last question. We get paid more for different types of students if they're an adult learner or they are educationally or academically disadvantaged.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Are we building those modifiers into this?
It is built in there. The average modifier I'm using is 1.3 points for that. And that's based on going back to my 23-24 data. That number could easily change in the coming months as I get better information from the state. But
So-
right now it's 1.3.
Yeah, can we pick that data up from what we get when they apply, or are we going to have to pick that data up from the state once they're already enrolled?
So the coordinating board, when they give us our estimated payment, they'll give us that information in terms of dollar amounts for those different categories. In terms of how I come up with that average is using those reports itself. I'm not relying on any other third-party information.
But it's coming from the state.
Coordinating board.
It's determined by the
information.
coordinating board.
Yep.
Okay, so because I'd like to know that number, because I imagine like that number could be kind of in flux based on who we're getting. So when we get it,
Well, in terms of our student profile, it's an indicator
yeah,
of what our
because I mean
student profile looks like.
it heavily affects this date, like
Yeah.
what our income is you know, if we're 100%. Yeah.
0.3 attached to a lot of students. Patricia?
Yeah.
Well, on the GIA transfer 15, you know, once a student transfers after 15 hours, the state will let us know because they're going to look at National Clearinghouse data, so we'll know after the fact, right? And as far as your question regarding dual credit, when they're a dual credit student and they've earned 15 hours, yes, we get paid that $3,500. But if they continue and they earn another additional 15 hours with us and then transfer, then we'll get the $3,500. But they'll have to stay and do additional. But, you know, hopefully we get those dual credits to achieve an award and then transfer.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. So the revenue recognition on the GIA transfer is based on students taking 15 hours here at Del Mar, not at the high school as a dual credit. It's taking them here.
I'm going to piggyback on one of the questions you asked, but we could know in advance if a student will qualify for one of those weighted modifiers based on if they're academically disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged, or an adult learner. We don't have to wait for the state to tell us that 12 months in arrears. We would know that when they enroll with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So we could make projections based on those modifiers. We might not be able to completely project when they're going to finish, but we can project what the modifiers would be.
Yeah.
And side note, according to the rules of the game for Freedom to Dream is they have 3 years to receive the benefits of that. And so there are some guardrails on that.
Yeah, my guess would be is the demographics of our region is not changing significantly. And so I think the 1.3 is close for now. As soon as we get more data, it'll probably be a range anywhere from, you know, 1.27 to maybe 1.35. And so the question we ask is, someone once told me, does the juice justify the squeeze by me, you know, going into that level of detail analysis, or can I at some point in time come up with a 5-year average?
And again, and for everybody listening, the two categories we're talking about is academically disadvantaged and socioeconomically disadvantaged, and or both.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Very good. Thank you. All right. Estimated tuition and fees. So on the bottom right-hand corner of the table is the projected year-over-year change in tuition and fees net of waivers for the 2025-2026 budget year, estimated at $323,000. This increase is primarily attributed to the F2D tuition pilot initiative and stronger than expected student enrollment growth. On this later point, Dr. Benavides Dominguez will shortly provide some information on current student enrollment trends. As previously, the college is expected to generate approximately $526,000 in new revenue. Again, this is I think I may have mentioned it, new market penetration growth that we never fully talked about, but we're seeing it today. So we're getting about $526,000 is our estimate for new tuition and fee revenue. In addition, the foundation is contributing $500,000 to our program, resulting in a combined increase in the tuition and fee revenue about $1 million. As previously discussed, the cost of the waivers for the first year, as reported in the center of this table, is $3.1 million. This figure includes the $704,000 in waivers from F2D part-time students who previously paid out of pocket but now qualify for the F2D waiver. As reported in this total column on the table, the $704,000 will result in a corresponding reduction to the $1 million in tuition and fees. And so reported near the bottom of the table relates to the enrollment growth from the new qualified F2D non-cash paying students, which will have a net neutral effect on the budget. This cohort is expected to generate $2.4 million in tuition and fees, which will be offset by the cost of the waiver at $2.4 million for a net neutral on the total of zero impact to our revenue. Are there any questions on this slide? Okay. Next is the fall enrollment summary.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Hello, everyone. The enrollment summary data that you see in the first box reflects the breakdown of our enrollment and percentages by student type, regular, dual credit, and freedom to dream. And the second box highlights the 2024 and 2025 enrollment comparisons between regular and dual credit enrollment. The percentage change is trending positively, and it is growing as we have another month before the semester begins. Do I have any questions? Today? Yes?
No question, just want to congratulate the team because this is making a real difference, obviously.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Turner.
On the dual enrollment, do you know if these are returning or new? Because you probably won't have the new numbers, right, until the school districts start?
It's happening daily,
Okay.
so I don't know on the breakdown of
If they're
2847
returning or not.
how many of them are have never taken any hours here, but we can get you that
Just
information later.
curious, seeing which ones are-
But a lot of this enrollment is, before they leave school, they've already communicated with the dual credit department and have turned in that paperwork. And, some school districts are already back and turning in paperwork every day.
A data point that's, I don't think is going to be in this breakdown, but it will be in the August meeting. Again, what continues to trend is 60% of these, and these are credit students. We haven't even begun, we are going to touch on here in a little bit, talk about some CE students here and some interesting trends there. But again, of these credit students, 60% of them are focused on transfer.
Yes, sir.
Particularly in the art. So it's given what we just talked about with the new rules, it's somewhat, it's going to be a challenge, okay? And we're ready for another challenge, and we're going to step up and meet it, because that's what we do. However, 60% are focused towards transfer. That is actually wonderful news, but it's going to be a challenge.
The third box, yes,
Hang
ma'am.
on a second, Regent Loeb.
Sure.
Oh, I was just going to say this is great. One thing that I think Mark sent me some data on, is that a very significant portion of the Freedom to Dream students who are coming out of high school did not take dual credit. And I just wanted to comment on that and say I think that is an opportunity and shows us that there is still more depth to go on dual credit. And it would really help us improving all of our numbers if we were able to.
It's a critical part of the business model that we're going into, and we are doubling down and we are focusing intently on that. And Dr. Leonard and Dr. Jonda are working, I think, more closely than ever for that. We recognize, based on these data that came our way, frankly, were surprising to me. I was surprised at how many students were coming without that being the case. We know we have a plan focused on that, and we are going to go after those students like never before.
And I think feeding that data back to the high schools and say, hey, look, we had 100 students from your high school that didn't do dual credit that signed up for this. Like, we should have been engaging with them when they were sophomores or freshmen or eighth graders. So, all right, thank you.
The third box that you see here is the continuing education enrollment headcount. Please keep in mind that we are in quarter one, and quarter one begins September 1 to November 30th. So enrollment is currently ongoing, and we do anticipate more growth when the ISD personnel and dual credit students return in August. The combined credit and continuing education headcount is trending upward from this time last year, and we are hopeful that the trend will continue as we are still in the registration period. And remember that the start of this registration period is our next funding cycle. So in the last 2 years, continuing education continues to improve every year.
Last year, at the end of this current academic year, as we're winding up, we had approximately 11,000 individuals in continuing education programs. 11,000, okay, on top of the other 11,000.
And the year before that, we were at 10.6.
And the year before that, 10.6.
So, I'll turn it over to Miss Jackie.
As Jackie's coming up, it's important for us to talk in terms of our student body as over 20,000 because that's who we are.
Thank you. All right, so on this graph, I wanted to give you a comparison of our academic tuition and fee revenue compared to our total enrollment for all the semesters throughout the year. And when we talk about academic tuition and fees revenue on our side, that's the credit courses, which we have academic listed on there, dual enrollment, and flex. So when we compare our academic enrollment to our academic tuition and fees collected, you can see in this graph that we've consistently followed the same trend with our enrollment and our revenue that's collected. In fiscal year 24 and 25, that's an estimate, and I did include the FAST funds in fiscal year 24 and 25 because dual enrollment is part of our comparison, and so we started collecting those FAST funds in those last 2 years, so that way you have a true comparison. So with the estimate that we've received from IR, we are currently estimating a 6% increase in our academic enrollment, and that also coincides with our academic tuition and fees. Dual enrollment is estimated to be increased by 17% compared to last year. So as we forecast for fiscal year 2026, we know that we're seeing an increase in just our regular enrollment this year, and it looks like we're seeing that going into fiscal year 2026 as well. So this is why that we have changed our preliminary tuition and fee budget to include that $322,000 that Mr. Garcia discussed earlier. Are there any questions? Okay. So for our property tax values, again, we're seeing that negative 1.15% decrease. And I wanted to point out this slide, this includes the values for Nueces County and for San Patricio County because we do have that little piece of San Patricio County. So our values did go from 35.9 to 35.8, but these values and this percentage that we present to y'all, that is taking into consideration those protested values that are disallowed, our tax ceilings, the amount of TIFs that we send out. We receive those monies for those TIFs that we participate in, but we don't get to keep it. We reinvest it into that tax investment financing project. So these percentages are after that. The ceiling values increased by $531 million compared to last year, which also can help contribute to the overall decrease. In addition, the exemption for the properties owned by CPS Energy, those are included in the values as well. We also did see a decrease in the values in San Patricio County. So when you combine all those together, that's why we're seeing that 0% increase or that little negative decrease. Are there any questions? Okay.
I just have, I have
Yes,
one
sir.
question. There's a note that says CPS Energy and Housing Authority. So
Yes.
what is our treatment of those in that 0% number?
So the exemptions for CPS Energy is included.
Okay.
The Corpus Christi Housing Authority exemptions are not.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so for our tax rate history, going off of these assumptions, with a 0.15 negative valuation decrease and that $593 million in new construction, and going up to the estimated 7.999% over the no new revenue rate. Currently on here, we're estimating a total tax rate for fiscal year 2026 of 0.277048. As you can see, our debt service rate is going to decrease a little bit, and then that M&O rate's going to increase a little bit. So based on the information, a taxable homestead value of $259,872, a homeowner could potentially pay the college $720 next year for property taxes.
One thing very quickly, if I may, Ms. Landrum, is, again, this number is not, we are not setting the rate. We are not, there is no action to be taken. I'm just kind of saying that for the general public. Today is a consideration and showing you what the 7.9 will yield as a scenario. We know, and we talked about this yesterday or this morning, that there's going to be a fine point brought to our pencils, and we have to fine tune these numbers.
Yes.
This is not an official proposal. This is showing what the rate will look like at the legal maximum, the legal allowed limit. And that's where we are right now.
Based off of an estimated no new revenue rate.
Based on it, exactly. So stay tuned. The numbers could look slightly different. And the only way we can go is lower. Okay, if you go for a vote and all that, we're not talking about that, Jackie. But what we're talking about is this is a scenario that we're going to put a finer point to our pencils before we come back to you for final approval.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I just want to suggest on that bottom section that we need to list what the average homestead value was on each year, because that note makes it sound like that's the tax change on over the years on a $259,000 house. That's not what that number actually is. It's the tax rate has changed a little bit. The average value of a house has changed significantly. So
Yes, it has.
I think we just need to distinguish that so people don't misread that.
There's a couple ways to do that, and we'll provide that, because I think you need to use it as $100,000 increments, and it's easy for someone to sit there and multiply it, as well as have the average, the newer, more accurate average. We can apply both.
Yeah, and I would also suggest using the median home value rather than the average home value, because those two numbers can be drastically different in a community like ours.
We can have a full chart on the three different perspectives, three different units. Because I've talked to taxpayers over the years, and they all like the different methodologies. Just give me the 100,000, I'll do my math. No, give me this average. No, don't give me the mean, give me the median, and so forth. And so I think we can do all three easily and have a really practical tool for our taxpayers to evaluate our rates ultimately. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you. All right. Okay, so for our preliminary revenue budget, we are reducing our state appropriations to be in line with what the state is currently estimating in those near final runs. We agree with the new methodology changes, and looking at those last 2 years of data to compare, it probably is in line. So we're reducing our state appropriations by that $324,000 to bring it down to that $19.1 million that the state is currently estimating. So we are still including that $528,000 for our fast appropriations. That's again just to bring it up to what we received in 2024. Another thing that we discovered after our last meeting, ERS is increasing our health insurance premiums by 8%. And since the state does, and that's the first change since 2017. It's been a while since they have changed it. But their contribution amount should increase by the 8%, so we've estimated that. So we're adding in that $342,000. So for the tuition and fees, we're including the $322,000 that we've discussed. And then with the property taxes, with the things that we have talked on the property taxes and where those current valuations were when we did this, we're adding that $6 million that we've been discussing. So this brings our total preliminary revenue budget to $132.1 million. Are there any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you and Mr. Garcia and Dr. Escamilla and your team for the work, because it's really helpful for us to see what goes into each of these buckets, and because things are changing. It's very, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. So during our budget and review and recommendation phase, we analyze the data that we've gathered to identify our priorities for the upcoming year and determine the best way that we can allocate our funds in order to reach the college's mission. So these resources support various initiatives that the college plans to implement in the next fiscal year and aligns with the college's strategic plan, which enhances our ability to meet the needs and expectations of our students, parents, employers, faculty, and our community. Ultimately, this process supports the college's mission. So all of us are pretty familiar with our new strategic plan, Charting the Viking Way, which consists of the 3 guiding stars, communicate, elevate, and cultivate. So each guiding star is complemented by 2 strategic goals. And as we go through and we analyze and we prioritize and decide how we're going to allocate our resources during the year, we base our decisions to be aligned strategically with at least one of the goals that are associated with one of the guiding stars. So this approach allows us to direct our efforts effectively and achieve the strategic objectives. Okay, so now let's talk about our preliminary expense increases. So for our preliminary expenses, we have identified initiatives that support our strategic goals, which are categorized on this slide by the goals of our strategic plan. So for connecting beyond the college, we are potentially looking at increased targeted marketing by using our CRM and Element 451 to recruit students through various avenues. So in addition, we are expanding our recruitment efforts to continue increasing our dual enrollment. Like you said, there's still capability out there to get more students in dual enrollment. So we are working on reaching out and recruiting those students.
Can I just say something really quickly that I thought of afterwards? Mm-hmm. There's recruiting more, and then there's advising more effectively. It's 2 different things. More is not necessary. I mean, you always want, quote, more, but recruiting and getting them locked in earlier, advising, as Dr. Turner was saying earlier, and implying that we need to do a better job of, is going to be our opportunity.
Yes, thank you. So for increasing completion for our students, For instructional equipment, again, we want to retain that $650,000 that we allocated in our fiscal year 25 budget. That way we can continue to update our outdated equipment to enhance the instructional environments to facilitate student success. And just a reminder, those a couple of things that we've done this year, we're adding 50 welding booths for our welding program, and then we've been replacing all of our dental chairs in our dental program. So great things have been done with those funds, and we just want to continue that momentum. So in addition, we are also considering adding additional funds to IT to upgrade outdated computers in our computer labs and other technology-related items. For optimizing the Viking student experience, we know our enrollment's increasing, which will likely increase the needs for student support services. So some of these potential services that we're looking at including are enhancing our wraparound student services, not only to support our current students, but also to support any of those students that are coming to us for the first time. And then we're also looking at piloting a success coaching model to increase our student outcomes. So for maximizing resources entrusted to the college, we want to continue addressing maintenance needs such as our trash disposal. We see an increase in that cost. We want to continue addressing the deferred maintenance needs that we have across all campuses. And we also are seeing some increases in contracts for services to maintain all of our campuses, such as our custodial services. That one typically goes up every year. We're also seeing some increase in our utility costs, such as our electricity and our water, with the buildings being completed. So we're seeing some increases there. For nurture our faculty and staff to achieve their potential, we're doing that by investing in our employees with those potential salary increases that we're going to discuss next. So these are the initiatives that we have identified that support our strategic goals and ultimately the mission of the college. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to comment on the utilities. I know the city has a pretty significant drop in commercial meter wastewater, which is actually higher than the water. And that is because they used to, before they had the fats and grease program, they just charged commercial a flat 50% increase over residential to pay for line jetting. They then instituted a program about 10 years ago where they start testing everyone, and you get charged if you're over and above the threshold, but they were still charging the 50% extra to everybody as well, even if you didn't use any fats or grease. And so they have finally relented, and so I think it's like a 13% drop on commercial wastewater bills. And then I don't think they have an increase for the desal project in the budget yet. I think their plan is to use the industry surcharge to pay the first 3 years of debt service on that. So I think they just put that out like yesterday. So there may be some, I don't know how bad electrical is, but there may be some on the city stuff. There may be some relief in there actually.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get that, John?
Yep, you got that, John?
Yes, sir. Yes, I got that.
All right, if there's no other questions, Ms. McDonald will continue with our proposed salary and benefit increases.
Thank you, Jackie. So as we talk about investing in our employees, so this is our proposed salary and benefit scenarios. We bring you different options every year. So we have option 1, which is a baseline of 2%, option 2, which is a 3%, and then option 3 is a 4%. For discussion purposes today, in this proposed budget, we are using option 2, and option 2 will provide for faculty, full-time faculty, a 1-year, award them their 1 year of experience pay at $829, and then it will be a 3% increase to the schedules for the other components, which is their rank, education, and common base. And the budget that we will see in a moment, it also includes the promotions that have already been approved for this coming year. And then anytime we increase what we call a 9-month contract for faculty, it increases what they could potentially get paid if they teach in the summer. So we always make sure that we account for that summer pay impact because it is part of our budget. And then our adjunct overload, we have a schedule, and that would also have a 3% increase to that schedule. For our exempt employees, remember on exempt employees, that does include those staff who are instruction related. They are just not faculty status. So we're proposing a 3% increase. For our non-exempt full-time, a 3% increase. And then on non-exempt part-time, a 3% increase. And this is what we call, which we started explaining last year, is what we call our core part-time. Those are the ones that come back. We have them, they come back every year. So it does not include work study. They come and go when they're enrolled in school. It does not include student assistants. It does not include grants because those are paid from grants. So we go by what the grant says. And then it does not include instructional, because on instructional, they too could come and go per week, per semester. Those are determined by market. What's the hourly rate to pay someone to come in and maybe be a skills trainer in a particular area for EMT. So that is based off of what those particular programs pay. So that could fluctuate depending on market share, market demand. Okay. So applying these, and of course, any of the increases, everyone has to meet eligibility, which is per policy, the particular eligibility. Yes, sir.
Just a little bit about this presentation, and thank you, Tammy, and the team for preparing this. This is not easy. We've showed a range again, and very purposely to show you all what a maximum scenario would look like. One tie-in is the overall budget. The high end of the budget with the 7.9 includes the 3% raise. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of right there. That's a different number. The outcomes. I didn't want you to assume that 132 number included that 4%. I want to make sure. If you already said that, Tammy, I apologize. I've been checking some other stuff, but did you say that already?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. For the purposes, we're
right,
using option 2, which is the 3%, which
Gotcha.
overall is about 2.7 million. What we had in the very preliminary budget for June, we had brought a 2% scenario. We have moved to the 3%. What we have been seeing from our counterparts around the state is we're seeing 3, and some are going higher than 3, but 3 was basically the lowest we had seen. Also, I know the June CPI, or Consumer Price Index, came in at 2.7. So we try to at least do our best to stay within that. Projections or forecasts for the year could be, it could overall end up being 3 by the end of the year. So that's why we felt like at this point, since we are proposed and very preliminary, that's why we moved to the 3. Okay, so we'll get a little bit into more detail. Any questions?
I had one.
It's okay. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
How many new staff do we have since we're increasing our enrollment? Do we hire, or how about their scheduling? Have they been having to add more classes due to this, our new programs? Just kind of wondering how they're
Two different
scheduling.
questions. If you'll handle the HR
Yeah,
one.
we'll do that because actually the next slide will kind of show when we get to the increase in the actual line item for the budget, you'll see that some of the increases are larger than the raises, basically, the proposed raises, because we do have some added capacity and added anticipation for positions across the college. And it's instruction. Dr. Halcombe to speak to that too, but we've had a lot of conversations about this. It's faculty related, part-time, like adjunct related. It could be on the CE side, which are instructional, but they're paid out of exempt or non-exempt salaries. They're not faculty status. So we have taken those needs into account in the whole entire budget. And this is just particularly talking about those who are eligible right now for a salary increase. But we can get into that detail in the next slide if we're ready to move on.
We'll get to the next slide.
Thank you. So if you see the current budget for 25, shows in each category for what we call our accounts per our employee groups. It shows the faculty salaries, that is full-time and adjuncts, and what we call terms, which are full-times. We may hire them for 1 term, 2 terms, but they are not hired in what we call regular positions or tenure track positions at the time, but we know we need a full-time person, so they're terms. So that rolls up, all those categories roll up into the faculty salaries. So we have a 2.6 million. There's probably close to 1.7 of that, or a little more, is the actually salary increase for faculty and the promotions and summer pay to do with the salary increase. So there's a little more than that, like we talked about investing in our employees. Well, for me, it's beyond the raises. It's also We have opportunities for growth, faculty get promotions. We have opportunities for advancements in other areas for different staff. So this includes a lot of that in that column where it says increase or decrease. So we're anticipating that we will need some additional dollars for instruction under what we call faculty-related salaries. We also have some additional dollars in here because we could pay stipends to employees that are faculty status in various ways. We have chairs that get paid stipends. We have our dual enrollment ISD embedded instructors. They get paid a stipend now. We have critical needs stipends. We have stipends. Maybe a faculty member takes on an additional assignment way beyond their responsibility. They may get some extra dollars for that. So we have increased monies for those type of stipends in this budget because we do have the need. And increase for, we've had some added increases have been recommended or asked for adjunct for part-time instruction. So those all roll up into that second column. So it's the raise plus.
So it's a big push. There's a big push now, and what we've shown today in terms of enrollment and the trends coming our way, we're getting ready for, and there is going to be a need for two things. There's several steps, and as Ms. McDonald is explaining, using the capabilities that we have with our team currently and augmenting their responsibilities and tapping their talents, basically giving them that first option is that first line of defense in what we're doing here. That's what Ms. McDonald is explaining. In addition to that, what we're going to realize as we get into the first part of the fall semester with enrollment, we're going to understand, we're going to have a much better understanding, deeper understanding of what our enrollment actually is, obviously. But what's not so obvious is how we need to react. And we don't want to overreact, and therefore we're augmenting with our current employees as that strategy to kind of ease into this thing. And if we get, more than we can say grace over immediately, then we'll respond very quickly.
Thank you. So then, of course, we have the 2.6 across the faculty line, and then we apply our vacancy factor. So, like I said, that's kind of it's a weighted factor that gets applied. So we look at a place and time. We say, okay, right now, where are most of our vacancies coming from? Because you have all of your salary dollars that are rolled up for faculty into one bucket. And like I said, typically summers you do have more vacancies, I'm going to say, in faculty because we do budget for those term faculty, the full-time terms, but we don't necessarily use them in the summers. So it's going to show quite a few vacancies in those. We've had some retirements, and we'll be having more retirements between now and, of course, the end of August, which is this fiscal year. So we tend to this time of year have a little more vacancies showing up in that faculty line item. So if you look across overall, when you apply that factor, it's about a 3% increase from one year to the next, with all these other added investments into our employees that are taken into account. So that's the faculty line item. So for our exempt salaries, we have current budget a little over $14 million. There's $2 million in the increase or decrease, so it's a $2 million. So what we're doing here is, like Dr. Escamilla just alluded to, is that we have the raise factor, which is current employees. We also have identified, we're talking about all these initiatives that we're trying to align with and to restructure for the initiatives that we have in play and those that we foresee. So we identified earlier this year that we needed some additional support in some other areas. So those positions had been added, so we've got to roll them. So for example, we have added some additional staff in the area of the dual enrollment programs into that division to go out to the schools. So we've added several positions there. We've added positions in what we call student recruitment and outreach, which is under at the admissions office and student support services. So we have added some in there, in that particular department. So those are in the budget. We are also, it could be looking at positions we know that we need to provide extra student support, like we have some dollars in here to align with advising that Dr. Escamilla has been speaking about, is to provide that additional advising support to our students. So there are dollars in here for that too. So the $2 million isn't just the salary increases, it's to support all of these student services and initiatives that we have put into play this last year that have to roll, but also some new ones we've identified in student support services that we need to move forward with this coming year.
So what Ms. McDonald is referring to in terms of enhancing our advising, that's a very understatement, a mild statement for the efforts that have gone on. There has been a total revamp and renewal of the overall advising process. And again, the college is coming together like never before on that from all facets of the college, from faculty, staff, and so forth. But functionally, I want you all to know that there's been summits. We've had advising summits. We continue to change and improve upon those wraparound services that are going to be absolutely critical to getting those students to completion, whatever that means for them, in all ways. So there's a huge undertaking. Ms. McDonald is hitting the tops of the waves on it because that's the nature of this report. But I want you to know the work that's going on there. We're going to bring back to you as we roll out. But it's a total revamp.
Thank you. So then again, you apply the vacancy factor, so that's where you come up with the new line item for this proposed budget of $16 million. Then we move into the exempt salaries instructional. So these are the ones that are non-faculty, but they do provide instruction, primarily in our CE programs. And so you'll see an increase of a little over $600,000. Part of that is the salary increase proposed. But we also have identified, and I know that we have had, I want to say, I have not checked with Dr. Rivera lately, but we've had at least 3 new school districts that are coming in that are wanting our healthcare programs in the CE at the dual enrollment sites. So we anticipated hiring, I think last count was about 8 additional to support those CE programs at the dual enrollment sites and those ISDs. So we have provided dollars in the budget for those.
Leonard, which school districts are those?
We have Alice ISD, we have Orange Grove, and we have Skidmore Tynan.
Thank you, sir.
So we made sure that we provided dollars in the budget to support those new additions this coming year. And then our non-exempt salaries, it's salary increases, but it's also, this includes the part-time. So this is full-time and part-time when you look at the non-exempt. And so those dollars show this proposed salary increase. It also has, there was some additional requests for some additional in student support services and other things across the college for some part-time dollars. So that's what is there. And actually right now in our vacancy factor, we're actually showing, we're doing pretty good on our vacancy, not having very many vacancies in our non-exempt dollars. And then the next line is the instructional. Ms. Landrum, we talked about this, they did an analysis, and it was decided based on history that utilization of those dollars, that there was a couple $100,000 that we felt comfortable taking that, and we reallocated it up to the faculty salary dollars because that's what we felt like that needed. So that's why you see a little bit of reduction there based on some historical information. So it got reallocated to another line item that it was needed. And then all the increases associated benefits would be about $1 million. So that brings us to about the 6.7 million, apply the vacancy factor, and so the overall increase is the 6%. So any questions?
So in terms of timing, at our workshop in first meeting in August, will we make a decision then on the percentage, potential percentage salary increase, or will we wait until the final meeting in August?
We typically do that at the first meeting in August, so
That's
that
right.
way our budget needs to be, I know that the budget team will talk about this, needs to be more solidified for that August meeting, because leading up into the
That
final
finer
meeting
point.
to adopt it, yes.
Right.
That's that finer point on the pencil that I was talking about
And
earlier.
it's so big
Yes.
in terms of impact that we need to, okay. So board members, if you have any feedback on the percentages, we need to hear that today. If not, then staff will come back with their recommendation at the first meeting in August for us to take action on with the final complete adoption of the budget on the 26th.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I think CPI is good. And I think it's unfortunate on CPS that's cutting I think a big chunk of $1 billion out of our tax base, and that's why the value's flat. I mean, I guess we'll learn more about that. I mean, the good news is for a 5% increase in salary costs of our staff, we are getting 20% more students. And so, I mean, I think that confirms the strategy. The bad news on that is we don't get paid for those students by the state until they complete. And so I told Mark when I called to ask him a couple questions, I said, look, I'm not opposed to taking some of our reserve that we've had left over from contingency the last couple years and using that to float some of this if it helps us keep our tax rate, helps keep everybody comfortable on tax rate. You know, I know we tend to have two fights a year, and that's tax rate and tuition rate. And we do it clean and as friends, but those are the two fights we have. But I mean, that is my thought, is that, I mean, this is an exigent circumstance that's good. You know, we need more staff because we have more people to teach, and teaching people is our job. And so, but there's the lag between when we teach them and when we get paid for teaching them. And so, yeah, that's my idea, that's my contribution. Everybody else talk.
I've got a question about that. So if we were to dip into reserves, are you thinking that we would pre-allocate some of the revenue from state to rebuild the reserves?
No, I mean, I was thinking, like, if we kind of have a good idea of where we're going to be, you know, once we get some completions, you know, take a couple $1 million out of our reserve and use that to pay for the increase in staff cost until we start getting it kicked in because we're getting completions, you know. But
okay, then I've got a question for you, Mark. How deep could we go in there without affecting our bond rating?
Several million. What does that mean? I gotta sit down. This is a little bit more in depth than what we even talked about on the phone, so I'd have to do some calculation. But I've not ever done that. But that being said, we've never done what we've done either with students and so forth. And there's maybe an equal and opposite reaction to this potential. We can come up with the scenario. Mr. Garcia's toes are curling right now. I can tell. I can see the smoke coming out of his ears. But that being said, what we always known is we have flexibility in there that I think is, and this is just a guess, I'm thinking 3 to 5 million in there in the unrestricted reserves. Again, they would have to be used very explicitly and very in the support, right? There's all kinds of things that I'm just thinking out loud that's not really.
You're saying like you use it to cover technology or something like that.
Well, and the wraparound services all together. Yeah. Yes, sir. And to push the money out there. That's a very round number. It could be bigger. It could somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure.
But I agree with David. I would be looking for ways to relieve the upward pressure on property tax rates.
Agreed. Understood. We can come up with something. I already see Mr. Garcia scribbling away. I mean, writing. Excuse me, writing away. So we can come up, if that's the board's pleasure. We can come up with a scenario as such.
Well,
at least for feedback. I know there's not a vote.
It's an idea today, and so it's probably one of the things that staff could go chew on for the next couple of weeks and see what impact it might have. I think it's important to understand that the revenue pressures, so I wanted us to spend so much time on the revenue side today, is with the changes in the credentials of value, and when you take associate degree programs out of that outcomes-based funding, or some of them, when we had a mandate by the governor that we could not raise tuition, and so that leaves us property tax as the way to potentially balance our budget. So I think put it into the mix if you think it's needed, and unless there's specific direction today, let's come back. But we always want to protect our taxpayers locally, but we do have these competing state challenges. And so when the state tries to control in one area, the only stool left is our local taxpayers. So.
In the, I think about this often, as you expect, for me too. And what I've also heard in the community is when this college is growing, we will support you. I've heard that from all people from all parts of the political spectrum. We are putting the college under pressure that is like nothing else we've ever done, and as such, we will go back. We'll go back to the drawing board with that idea, and come up with some scenarios.
Any other comments before we move off of this slide? Sorry, we hijacked your slide for something else as well. So now Dr. Hocklam doesn't feel like she's the only one we picked on today.
That's perfectly fine.
Well, what is the amount of the reserve, just for curiosity? Or does anybody have that number?
So we got a couple of buckets. The one that top of mind comes to mind is the risk reserve for $8 million, and then we also have built into this budget $1.9 million in contingency. So just those two alone, that's about $10 million.
And then beyond that is the unrestricted reserve that Mr. Garcia does not want me to mention. And that is why he's not mentioning it, which is 40. Say it, Mr. Garcia. Only you're the expert. Say it, Mr. Garcia, please.
Dr. West answered from the back. We heard it. Thank you, Dr. West. And by board policy, staff always includes a 5% contingency. So that is by board policy.
Yeah, and then there is a requisite. The other part of that question, that very astute question, Regent Kelly, is that there are bond ratings and so forth and operating from that big bucket of dollars that Mr. Garcia couldn't quite articulate. Thank you, Dr. Kathy, for saying, but there's another part of that we have to protect in terms of financials and so forth. But even with that, I think the numbers that I've stated are in the range.
Well, but the risk of financing certain things in the budget with reserves is, what do you do next year?
We get it. That's why we don't do it. That's why we haven't done it.
Yeah.
But again, this is a different time, and they're different. Well, understood.
All right, we have 2 more slides in this budget presentation. Are you finished?
Yes,
Mr.
Ms.
Dahl?
Landrum will come up and talk about non-salary expenses.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. All right, so with the changes that Ms. McDonald discussed on the salaries and benefits, and then right now we have $1.3 million increase for non-salary expenses, and then an increase of $103,000 for our contingency with the new revenues added. That would bring our preliminary budget to $131,963. So now we will go into the further detail that matches those categories of our financial statements. And I just want to point out that I have gone through and analyzed line by line, so these numbers are very different because things have been shifted around. We went up a percentage on our salary increases, so these are very different. And they shouldn't shift too much more. I want to do one final analysis, but they shouldn't change too much, hopefully. Okay. So for our salary and benefits, we have that increase going up to that $94.2 million, which is at 6%. For non-salary, we currently have an increase of $141,000 for equipment. That's mainly to upgrade those computer labs. The $285,000 for student recruiting is for increased targeted marketing using that new ERP and Element 451, along with the expanded recruitment for dual enrollment. The $146,000 for consultants and contract labor is for student success coaching model and increased cost in existing contracts for services such as our custodial services. The $75,000 for special pop interpreter is due to an increased need in our students for interpreter services. This varies each year. In the last 2 years, we've seen a pretty consistent need, so we feel like this is a category we need to add some additional funds to. The $580,000 for computer, software, hardware, and licenses is mainly for our SaaS upgrade, which is for our ERP system, and increases for software costs. The $30,000 is for travel and professional development, which is to increase our professional development that supports our strategic goal of nurturing our faculty and staff to achieve their full potential. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So for the next year, this coming year, it's not an election year, so we have reallocated that $175,000 for utilities and telephone. We are estimating an increase of $526,000, mainly for electricity, internet, and water due to higher usage and increased cost. Our insurance quote came in less this year again, so we have reallocated that $399,000. And with a few other smaller increases and decreases, our preliminary non-salary budget increases currently $1.3 million, and with the $103,000 increase in our contingency, that brings our preliminary expense budget to $132.1 million, which is a 5% increase. Are there any questions?
Well, I noticed there's not any increase in the deferred maintenance account amount, and that deferred maintenance grows every year.
Yes, sir. We didn't increase it, but we did make sure we kept it in there.
John?
Is there, let me finish, is there some type of a plan?
Yes.
On an annual basis to start whittling that deferred maintenance down and getting back to some semblance of normalcy?
Mr. Strybos?
Yes, sir. And again, we're working with internal auditors, and it's been a special task that we're going to develop a very detailed, with the auditors, refined plan, and so they'll be updating the audit committee and the board as part of that process.
So when is that going to be made available?
As soon as the auditors have that plan ready. Yeah, so that they know it's a very high priority. We have a lot of the details already made. And a good example is this past year that amount didn't increase, but by 2 months ago we had that full amount encumbered. We have projects now in place. We literally are spending tomorrow's money, next year's money. We're already encumbering that money.
So action's already being taken. Two things. We're knocking off projects off the list of deferred maintenance. We are in construction constantly around the college with regards to deferred maintenance. And then we've just met, what was it, Wednesday last week, Tammy, with the Weaver folks and Dan and talking about this timeline. And can you talk a little bit about the timeline to answer Mr. Kroll's question?
Yes, Dr. Escamilla, Mr. Strybos and I met last week with our Weaver, our internal audit representatives, and we began the conversation of what they call the scoping and objectives meeting for the maintenance audit, and which will include deferred maintenance. So that plan is, there's going to be revising some of the scope and objectives based off of our conversations, and that will be coming to the audit committee and the board soon. And then the work, once that is solidified, then the work on that particular audit will begin.
We're talking September, as soon as September and maybe October is when we're bringing it back to the board.
The work will begin in August.
Yes.
So it could take a good month. So it'd be September, October. Yes.
Yes. Well, we're on it, Mr. Kroll.
And we're advertising right now for the renovation of the Fine Arts Building here at the Heritage Campus, which is a major deferred maintenance project. So we'll know soon exactly how much money we need to fix that building.
Mr. Loeb?
I would just suggest, there's been a lot of community conversation about construction inflation lately, and so I went and looked at the numbers, and basically construction inflation is higher than the return that we're getting on any of our bond investments for our unrestricted reserves. So if this is work that we are eventually going to need to do, it is better to do it sooner rather than later from the standpoint of our taxpayers, because it will be cheaper to do now, and we are not getting enough of reserve return on it in the bond market to pay for the price increases that'll go. So,
and some of those dollars that Mr. Garcia was referring to, particularly as it relates to the plant fund, are already being held so that we can receive. Am I speaking in the right direction,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Strabas? And then that's why you're getting these bids and everything else to see what it costs and what we have to pay cash to move quickly.
Exactly.
And those are the smaller projects, albeit, up to several million, but we are already moving in that direction, and we're waiting to get some solid information so we can bring back to you with dollars. Right, Mr. Strabos?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you care to add, or is it?
We have, when someone wins that lottery ticket and donates it to Del Mar College, we've got projects that are shovel ready. We have the plans ready to renovate the Harvin building, to renovate Heldon Fells. So we have projects that are high on that deferred maintenance list, and we're ready to renovate those buildings. We just working through the budget process.
so we can hyphenate on those building names? We can hyphenate on the building names?
That would be subject to the board.
Good answer. Any other questions for Jackie? Thank you very much. Very thorough presentation today. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right, with no further discussion on the maintenance and operation budget presentation, we do have one regular agenda item. We have an action item regarding approval and ratification of assignment of our external audit services contract. Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Briefly, board members, because it's outlined in the memo, back in August of 2024, you approved a contract for our external audit services with the firm of Collier, Johnson, and Woods. The terms are outlined in the memo. In February of 25, there was a lateral transitional move of the entire audit team that has been servicing the college they made a move from Collier to Adamson and Company. Collier no longer offers external audit services. Reviewing the circumstances, including the fact that Collier has agreed to contractually assign all rights under the contract to Adamson, it is administration's opinion that it is in the best interest of the college to consent to the assignment and assumption agreement between Collier and Adamson. The agreement's been included in your packet, and I'm here to answer any questions. We'd ask that you approve and ratify the assignment and assumption agreement as presented.
We heard a recommendation from Mr. Rivera. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Krull and Mr. Kelly. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. That motion passes unanimously. All right, since we've already had closed session, we will look at our calendar for the rest of the summer. We're going to meet on Tuesday, August 12th. At this time, do we have a workshop? We do not have a workshop planned, do we?
Not currently.
Not currently, okay. So we'll let you know very, very shortly if we intend to have a workshop, but I don't think we are at this point.
If anything, we'd start with closed session kind of scenario, just
Over
like we
lunch
did
again or
to work
something like
through
that,
lunch.
maybe.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Convocation is going to be on the 18th. If you do plan to attend convocation, please let Delia know. And that starts with breakfast and then move over to the Richardson Auditorium for the convocation. We will have our public hearings and adoption of the budget at lunchtime on the 26th of August.
Convocation starts with, it's a light breakfast to kick you off, but we do have a hearty lunch ready for everybody.
There we go. Okay, sorry, got that wrong. And in September, our regular board meeting date on the 9th. And for those going to the CAT conference, that's going to be the Community College Association Texas Trustees Conference in Austin. Austin, where am I going? In September, and then our October meeting date will be October 14th. All right, with no further business before the board, this meeting stands adjourned at, wait, one more item?
Did you say scholarship banquet?
Oh, scholarship banquet, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Matthew,
Talk about our scholarship banquet.
Talk about the, give us a 30-second commercial.
Only 30 seconds? Okay, at the end there. No, October 30th, we have a hard date for our annual scholarship dinner with the foundation, so more details, stay tuned on that. I think we send out a save the date, but we need to make an adjustment, so put that on your calendars if you don't have that for the Regents.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It is a great opportunity for us to meet directly with a number of students and our donors. And the foundation does a great job of scattering us out so we can be amongst those donors and students and get a chance to visit with folks who are supporting.
There will be a donors reception prior to, which will give a little mixer opportunity to spend a little extra time that wasn't afforded to us when everybody showed up and all the students showed up. So stay tuned. Matthew is going to put on a fantastic presentation.
Perfect. All right. With that, then, our meeting stands adjourned at 2:53 p.m.